Hello and welcome to Running on Carbs podcast. I am your host, Coach Val, and I would like to welcome you to the final episode of the year of 2024. Very exciting, and we are closing out the year and headed into a new one. So today's episode is going to be all about that transformation, that genuine transformation that we are looking to make when we see a new year on the horizon. So, today on Running on Carbs podcast, that is what we will be talking about as it relates, of course, to your running and to your plant based nutrition goals as well. So, first off, let's talk about this great saying that I heard recently, and the saying goes, the mirror won't smile back until you smile first. And I think that this is such a profound saying. And it is so profound that we need to delve into it and really see what this saying truly means for each of us and how it can impact our lives and how we operate within the lives that are the life and the world around us. So the quote, "A mirror won't smile back until you smile first," means that you can't expect positive reflections or interactions from those around you unless you first project that positivity yourself. You have to smile first. A mirror is simply a reflection of what you put out in the world. So your attitudes, your actions are mirrored back to you by the world around you from what you put out. It's so profound. So let's break it down a little bit. The reflection of self, the mirror, it represents your life and the people that you interact with, and they reflect your energy, your own energy, and your mood back to you. You have to take initiative, that means, in your life. If you want to see a positive reflection, quote unquote, a smile from the mirror, if you want that mirror to smile back to you, you first need to initiate that positive action by smiling first. It's so simple, isn't it? And yet so profound. And it comes down to this quote is encouraging that positive mindset, that positive attitude to attract those positive experiences that we all want in our lives. And the quote is relevant really to your running and nutrition journey because your running habits, they don't just happen without you taking the first step. You have to take that initiative and you have to get out the door or onto the treadmill, lace up the shoes before you can really create that running habit that you want to make. And your nutrition, it's not going to improve if you don't start adding in the good stuff first, which will push out room for all of the unhealthy stuff. Those things have to happen first before you get the outcomes, before you get the lower cholesterol, before you get the decrease in blood sugars, before your waistline starts to decrease, or before your energy really increases. That could really be a vicious circle of nutrition. So you need to start those things first, and then you start seeing those positive results come to you more and more and more. All right, so if you're ready to make this your strongest running year yet, stay with me today. This is, an inspirational yet practical episode. So we're going to talk about why motivation is a lie, why New Year's resolutions set you up for failure every time, how everything you need to be successful with running and your plant-based nutrition is already within you. It's already there. And I'm going to show you how in today's episode. So let's get into it. So why are goals alone not enough? Why aren't goals just in and of themselves enough? There's a lot of pitfalls to goal setting. So number one, you're relying solely on motivation. Motivation is unrealistic. It doesn't sustain. So motivation will be there while we're motivated, but maintaining motivation over a long period of time, which running and nutrition are long-term activities. They aren't things that we just do for a short period of time, get the results, and then move on. They're lifestyle changes. And so you can't keep up motivation for long time or long stretches of time. Motivation kind of gets the gears going and gets you in motion. But then after that, it takes habits, it takes discipline, it takes um, doing it no matter what, even on days that you don't really feel like it or don't really want to. That comes back to your discipline, of course. So, we've all heard about those full gyms in January that are totally empty by Valentine's Day. That's not uncommon. It's a pretty common understood phenomenon in the fitness world. I think a lot of gym owners are, very happy when it comes to their January signups, but they know it's not going to last. Just because a lot of the people are signing up based purely on motivation. They want something new in their new year. But then, the life sets in and the importance of going to the gym or sticking to a training plan. I think a lot of coaches like myself probably get a big influx of customers and clients at the new year because there's a lot of people who are very motivated at the beginning of the year to maybe get onto a training plan or start that new diet. But it's going to take more than just the end of year / new year motivation to really see that genuine transformation that an individual's truly looking for. And that's where it comes down to, a coach being able to get to the bottom of what the individual person's or what the client's true desires are. Like, why are they doing this? Why are they signing up? Why is it important now? And once that is understood and uncovered, then you can get past motivation and get to the real intrinsic reasons that somebody wants to make a change. And now you start to hit on something. Now you start making true lasting changes because the individual can take ownership of that. So I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's talk about the identity-based change, which is kind of where I was going with that. So you need to become the type of person who naturally does what aligns with their desired outcome. And it's pretty simple. So an example, instead of aiming to run I'm aiming to run 3 times a week, embody the mindset of I'm someone who doesn't skip runs. It's a different frame of mind, but it's that simple shift in mindset over time becomes who you are. Aiming to run 3 times a week is, not very committed if you think about it. I have a goal of doing this. Okay, well, everybody has goals. What are you doing about it? I mean, if we're going to just be blunt. But if you say, I'm running 3 times a week and I am someone that doesn't skip runs, that's commitment. That's genuine commitment. And there will be transformation with that type of commitment. So thinking like a committed runner versus someone who runs. The same can be said for thinking like a plant-based athlete versus someone who tries to eat healthy. Same sort of concept. I hear this quite often, actually, when I talk to people, and they say, "Oh yeah, I tried veganism for a while. I tried to be vegan for a while, but I just now I just eat healthy." I don't know what that means when someone says that, and I get a little confused with that, but because I think that eating a plant-based diet is healthy. So I get a little confused when I hear someone say, "Well, I did that for a while, but now I just eat healthy." Maybe they weren't eating the healthy foods on that plant-based diet. Could very well be. Depends on the individual that I'm talking to, how much I might pry on that. But to each his own. I do believe that a plant-based diet is, one of the healthiest diets on the planet, but I do think it can also be done poorly, and you can run into nutritional problems with adopting a plant-based diet if you aren't specific about it and you're not conscious of how you're implementing that diet. Because these days, if you go through the grocery stores and look at all the plant-based or vegan options, and you turn that package over and look on the back, they're full of just as much saturated fat, salt, ingredients that you can't pronounce, just the same as all of the other packaged foods. So it really takes intention to adopt that plant-based diet and be that healthy eater. So just thinking like someone who tries to eat healthy, rather than being someone who just tries to eat healthy, turning that around and saying, I eat a plant-based diet for my health. Yes, there you go. It's a statement, and it's a commitment. So it's also the same can be true for adopting and also staying on that plant-based endurance lifestyle. And I always call it a plant-based endurance lifestyle because so many of the runners who listen to this podcast and myself, long distance running is quite different than the shorter distances. Nutritional needs are different, and overall caloric needs, not only like nutritional as in macros and micronutrients, but caloric needs and everything are going to be different depending on the type of running that you're doing. So, small, consistent decisions, those are going to shape the identity that are going to lead to that genuine transformation that you're looking for. So, I'm a person that starts my day with steamed greens. Okay, that is who you are. So that's a healthy choice, and it leads to your overall goal of being that transformative plant-based athlete. And in this particular step of transformation, accountability is extremely important. So as you're adopting this new mindset, old thoughts are going to try to side rail you. It is inevitable whenever we start to make any types of change, with our athleticism, with our nutrition, with our careers, with our relationships, any type of change in our life, um, your mindset will try to go back to the comfort zone. It's always seeking homeostasis. Just like we talk about the body is always seeking homeostasis when we're running. And that's why like the heart rate, goes up, and we have to make sure that we have a good warm up and good cool down, and we don't just stop, we don't just start. But we're always trying to find that homeostasis and comfort in the activity. Well, in your mind, it's trying to find the homeostasis as well, because change is uncomfortable. And your brain is saying, no, 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 we don't eat greens every day in the morning. That's new. I don't want to do that. Doesn't matter if it's healthy. The brain says it's different. If it's different, it's dangerous. So it's kind of an odd way that our brains work. So we need to continue with it. We need to have that accountability to get over that brain glitch, we'll call it, and help the brain understand, greens in the morning is not dangerous. Greens in the morning is who I am, and it's good. And over time, the brain starts to say, oh, I like these nutrients. Oh, we're doing this every day. Okay, I'm not dead yet. And I'm feeling good. And hey, I actually have a little more energy. And I kind of like this. These greens taste pretty good. Yeah, I like the vinegar that you put on them. And, they're kind of sweet and not exactly, they're a little weird in the beginning, but now I'm starting to like them. And now the brain is saying, oh, I agree. This is who we are. We eat greens in the morning, and this is who we are. But it takes time for that to change. And while you're going through that change, that's where having that accountability uh, to help you stay on track and to not be tricked by the brain is really important when you're going through that growth phase because you can't grow and change in while you're in that comfort zone. You have to leave the comfort zone in order to grow. Otherwise, you're staying the same because you're comfortable. And I have this great analogy that I always think about when it comes to change and accountability and having that person in your corner. So when you go on a journey or you go on a trip, let's say you go to a foreign country somewhere, never been there, and or even like a historical site that you don't know anything about, it's all brand new to you. Isn't it so helpful to have a guide who points everything out to you and says, "Here's what is important. This happened on this date in this location." Or they tell you stories about the people who once lived there. So when my husband and I got married, we went to Cancun, Mexico for our honeymoon. And we were really young and not comfortable with driving in a foreign country. And so when we wanted to go to Chichen Itza, it was pretty far from our hotel. And so we booked a tour instead. And we went with a big group on a bus to Chichen Itza and some other places. And when we got there, you're just in this big, historical, archaeological, city where people once lived, and if you just walk through it, it's interesting to look at all the ruins, but we didn't know anything about it, we didn't know anything about the history, but we had a guide, and he lived there all of his life, grew up there, his family was from there, and he knew all of the stories. He knew all of the history of this fascinating, civilization, and I still remember some of the stories 30 years later, and I still remember some of the stories that he shared with us on that tour because they were so personal, and it was so interesting, and it really made an impact, on me. So that's what I'm talking about, having that accountability and that guide. You have someone who knows more than you about what it is that you're doing and can help you feel safe while you're there and help you through that process. It just makes it so much better. Honestly, like, this is where my specialty is. This is what I love to do. I guide women through their plant-based journey, and I guide them through their training plans to help them achieve their intrinsic desires and help keep them on track. Just like that guide that we met in Chichen Itza so long ago. It's interesting. You never know the people that will be inspiring to you when you first meet them and how long their inspiration will stay with you. So he was one of those people. All right, so let's talk about the change process itself. So let's start with our why. And I'm sure you've heard this before, um, but you have to know why you're wanting to make the changes that you're making. They have to be something within you. Your goals um, need to connect to your deeper motivations. So, for example, you want to be healthy for your family. Maybe you have elevated cholesterol levels. Maybe you are borderline with type 2 diabetes. You can be a runner and still have these lifestyle diseases from familial uh, history. I know I did, or do, I should say. I have it controlled now with my plant based diet. But it took a long time. It's something that just happened overnight. Like some people who are just eating poorly and affecting their blood work and their numbers, they can switch over to a plant based diet and see their blood work numbers improve dramatically in a short period of time. Those of us that have more hereditary issues that we were working with, that could take years to level out and improve. So, that could be a long-term why that you have. Maybe you had a family history of something and you watched a loved one go through a painful disease, and you don't want to go through that yourself, and you want to improve your health and your lifestyle for your family. And so, you can give yourself the best chance possible by improving your health so that you can be there with your family to the best of your ability, God willing. Um, but, that's just one. Maybe you have something little, maybe not so life and death, and that's fine too. It doesn't have to be a life and death, reason to want something. Maybe it's a personal achievement. Maybe you are coming up on, a big birthday, or maybe you just came through a really tough year. Maybe 2024 wasn't really nice to you, and you want 2025 to be your year to have your big accomplishments, to really prove to yourself, only yourself, that you can do something big. And that's your personal motivation, and you're looking for that personal achievement. That could be a big motivator. I know that that's been a big motivator for me many times in my life. I mean, are there really life and death reasons to run a marathon? Not usually. Not usually. But it is a huge personal achievement and personal accomplishment to train for and then run a successful marathon. So, and then to do it multiple times, is amazing. But even if just doing it one time, it's still an amazing accomplishment. So, understanding and knowing what that why is, but it can't just be, I feel like running a marathon. I think that's why I'll sign up for coaching. I think I want to run a marathon. That's going back to not really committed. That's not really intrinsic. There's no meat to that. There's nothing to hold on to when training gets hard. So, you need to dig a bit deeper than I just think I'll try it. No try. It's like Yoda. I won't try to repeat that quote because I always get it wrong and I'll just embarrass myself. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you know what it is. So, totally lost my place. Okay, so, um, anyway, let's move on. Let's address the common barriers. There we go. Okay, so back on track. Let's address the common barriers to change. Barrier number one, I'm missing runs due to evening fatigue or like a schedule conflict. So you work all day and you have every intention in the world of running after work, but your day was exhausting. You are tired, you've got to make dinner and walk the dog, and the kids are driving you up the wall. And as much as you would love to go for a run, you are exhausted and busy. So you don't do it. And then the next day, something else comes up. And, here we are at the end of the year, and you're, shopping for the holidays and buying groceries and buying gifts and trying to add all of that to do list on top of your regular to do list and work. So you don't get your runs in. So you think, okay, my solution is I can't run in the evening. My evenings are too full and I'm not consistent. So my solution is to shift to morning running. I'm going to run in the morning before the day gets crazy and get it in first. That way it's done. And then it doesn't matter how crazy the day goes. I will have gotten my run in and I can stay consistent with that. Not to mention, it's going to really help you with the crazy later. So, here are some steps to succeed. First off, you can't just say, I'm a morning runner now. I mean, you could say it, but I challenge you to see how long that lasts. So, you need to take it step by step to actually, make it happen. Commit to an earlier bedtime because you need to ensure that you're still getting adequate sleep. And that is going to mean that you're probably going to have to go to bed earlier than you were before. Lay out your gear the night before. Everything, your shoes, your clothes, your watch, your headphones, your hat, your sunglasses, your fuel, your water, whatever. Have it set out, ready to go. Prepare your pre-run snack or drink or whatever it is that you do before a run to prepare. Remember, if you're shifting from a night run to a morning run, you're going to need a little something. So even if you don't usually eat much in the morning, um, you're going to need to eat a little bit before you go and exert yourself with a run. You need fuel. Whereas at the end of the day, you may be able to run without immediately fueling before it because you've had food all day long, throughout the day. Different when you're a morning runner. So maybe, make sure you keep that in mind and prepare for that. And then also, logistics. Plan out where you're going to run. If you're going to run in the neighborhood and you have a certain number of miles, have an idea of your route. Kind of look at that ahead of time, um, and log it. Maybe put it into your app or your watch or whatever you do, so that you have an idea of where you're going in the morning. Also, right now in the morning, at least in the United States, where I am, it is dark in the morning. So make sure that you have proper gear for running it in the dark if you maybe were not running in the dark in the evening. So just be prepared as far as like light gear to be safe. And then highlight the small habit shifts that lead up to becoming that morning runner. Um, you know, you want to really focus on those little habit shifts, that getting up in the morning, and really making a conscious highlight of that in your mind, and focusing on those little things that lead up to the big thing, which is okay, now you're running in the morning. Now you're not missing your runs. Now you are consistent um, with your running. So little things build up. And, this can all be said for your nutrition also. And I never want to leave out that and just say, oh, this is all about running, because all of these habits can also be used for making sure that you stay on track with nutrition. And that could be, for example, meal prepping. So, even if you aren't a meal prepper per se, having an idea of what meals you're going to need during the week, which meals you're going to eat out, and where you'll be eating out. So, if you're going to eat out, call the restaurant ahead or have an idea of what their menu has on it to make sure that you can have a proper plant based meal when you get there. Um, and it also helps you know if you do prep some of your meals, or at least even if you just prep your lunches, and you take your lunch to work with you, knowing that one day you have a working meeting and there's food served and there's something there that is for you, that is not meat based or animal product based, then that week you only have to prep 4 meals instead of 5 maybe. That's good to know. It's good not to have all this extra food waste, extra prep time, especially if it's not something that will keep or that you can't freeze. So, knowing what your schedule looks like for the week as you prepare your meals, that's a tiny habit that, can make big results. You'll be prepared. And I have to say that key number one to a successful long-term plant-based diet, I would say, is preparation. Like if I had to boil it down to just, one thing, that would be my one thing, preparation. So start with that and go from there. Let that be your foundation. All right, limit your focus though to this is number 4 here. Limit your focus to one change at a time. Oh, this is where we all, at least I know, I want to do it all at once. I get this big idea in my mind and I just want to know it all right now and do it all right now. But that could really set you up for failure. So it's really important to just tackle one habit at a time, avoid that overwhelm, and you're going to improve your success rate. So if you're not so focused on trying to do everything perfectly at once, and by the way, perfect is a lie also. So there's lots of lies that we tell ourselves, isn't there? But if you're trying to tackle them all at one time, you're just going to overwhelm yourself and throw up your hands in frustration and be done with it. And it's so worth it. Now you got to go back to your why again. Like, is it really worth getting so frustrated that you throw up your hands and give it up? Your why should be stronger than that. And if it's not, that's probably not your why. And we need to dig a little deeper. So, first off, changing. Okay, so one change at a time. Let's think of what could be a one thing that you can change. Adopt that regular meal prep habit. That could be your first thing that you focus on. So, one thing might be I'm going to meal prep on Sundays, and that's going to help me stay on track with my plant-based eating, for the rest of the week. And focusing on that alone can make a huge difference in your success as far as staying with that plant-based diet. By the way, I've talked a lot about meal prepping in this episode right now, but I did a full episode on meal prepping. So it's called 10 Efficient Meal Prep Tips for Plant-Based Runners, and it's episode number 34. So if you're interested, I'll put the link in the show notes to that episode, or you can just scroll back in your player and find that episode on 10 efficient meal prep tips and listen to that, because I know we've talked a lot about that today in this episode, but it's so key. It's that preparation. Okay, so beyond plant-based diet, so let's talk a little bit about running. So, what could be a change that you could make for focusing one change at a time? Uh, Building a consistent stretching or mobilization or strength training routine to prevent injuries. Oh, that's a good one. That can be a game changer. And also, it can save you from the injury bench. I know all too well about that. And I have to say that for me in 2024, once I started getting healthy again after my stress fracture, strength training has been a primary goal. And I have been as consistent as possible with it, but very rarely will I skip strength training now to and then only do runs. I will make sure I am doing something when it comes to strength training. It has become a huge priority. And so last year, that was my big one change. That was the one thing that I truly focused on was being a person that was consistent with strength training. And I really stuck with that. So I can see it in my body. I can see the muscle tone and I can feel it on my runs. I don't have those niggles. My shins feel good. So that took a little while coming back to running. Oh, I had those new runner pains with the shin, not quite shin splints, but shin soreness. And and my hips were sore when I would start getting to longer distances. And so strength training has really been a major game changer for me in 2024. And that's definitely something I will be keeping up with consistently. Because I got to say, over 40, things are so different. I don't know what it is about Father Time that just flips that switch and says, "Oh, you're over 40, Mrs. Lady. Your bones are more brittle now. Oh, and your muscles aren't quite as strong, and the collagen in your body is, kind of disappearing on you. Um, you better kick it into high gear if you want to keep all that stuff." So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I like to help people with. So that's my focus. But, you want to establish that non-negotiable time, also for your long runs, because as much as you're doing these other things, like strength training or whatever your one thing is, Um, I know that long runs are so key for, most well, every endurance runner. If you wanna run long distances, you have to get in your long runs. And, establishing that as your non-negotiable, um, so that you don't miss them. Now, there are times, of course, where, you know, it's quite the time commitment, right? Some long runs can last you 2, 3 hours depending on what it is that you're training for, and that's quite a time commitment when you have other, commitments and responsibilities to take care of in life, but, really focusing on that and maybe making that your one change. Establishing that long run as your one non-negotiable. Like, okay, if I can't do it on Saturday, then I will do it on Sunday, and it will be done, on my day off, whatever your day off might be, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, or you get Tuesdays off. But whatever your day is, for your long runs, and stick with it. It's one thing if you have to kind of shift a schedule around because of other responsibilities, but missing it altogether should be a non negotiable. Nope, no missing long runs. Unless, of course, you're sick or injured, please don't go out for long runs if you're sick or injured. I hope that goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway because I don't want someone to think, oh, Coach Val is sending me out. She said I have to make it a non negotiable, even though I have all this knee pain. Please don't do that. No, let's be smart too, because we want to run another day too. And you want to really focus on the incremental progress, okay, over perfection. So we're not looking for perfection here. If you are sick, if you are injured, don't go out on that long run and don't feel bad about it. You're taking care of yourself. So that's more important. Um, if you are trying to incorporate more strength training and you had a late night, maybe, someone was sick in your family and you had to take care of them and you had a late night and the next morning you wake up and that's going to be your strength training day and you simply have no strength because you got 4 hours of sleep. You know what? Okay, take care of your body. That's all right. We're not looking for perfection. We don't want to just check a box just to check a box. As much as I like checklists and boxes to check, um, that's kind of my thing, but um, that's not what we're doing. We're not out here to check boxes. We're here to grow and be better people, to have that genuine transformation. And I don't think genuine transformation comes from checking boxes. All right. Lastly, let's make it last. Momentum, staying accountable, that's how you do it. I mean, right there. If you want it to last, you need to take that momentum from the beginning. You have to have accountability to keep you on track and rinse and repeat and keep moving with it. A good way to stay accountable and stay on track is to track your progress. I'm one of those that if you don't know where you've been, then how do you know when you get where you're going? So you have to track those things. You have to write them down. You have to put them in an app. You have to, put them on the calendar, something visual, something that you can track. As a matter of fact, I love tracking so much that I track in a number of different ways. And that helps keep me accountable to myself. And it also helps me be able to go back in time and look at how I did, months ago, years ago, during a training plan, during an off season, maybe during a speed plan, in between longer endurance races. And I keep track of all of my notes as far as nutrition, my heart rate, my cadence, my pace, my energy level, and then I take detailed notes on the runs also. Sometimes my notes are things like something I saw or an emotion that came up. I also keep track of, thoughts and ideas that come to me on runs. Sometimes I'll take a voice memo if I'm on a run and something comes to me, like for the podcast or for a blog post or something. I'll take out my phone and I'll record a voice memo while I'm running, which sometimes sound really funny when I get back home and I listen to it to remember what it was that I wanted to remind myself of. Sometimes they sound really funny, but it works. Um, but then I put everything down on paper. Even though I have a watch that gives me all of these statistics, sometimes a watch, actually all the time, the watch has too much information. I don't need to know, three quarters of the stuff that's on there. But, it's kind of interesting. But most of the time for most recreational runners, you're really only focused on a handful of statistics, and body statistics, and information that you wanna keep track of. So I pull that data from the watch, and then I write it down in my log. And I have just recently written a running journal logbook. And this running journal is exactly the same format that I have been using for myself for years. And I decided to put it together in a book for not only, my own use, because it's very convenient to have a beautiful book that is, nice and soft to the touch and all together in one place, that I can keep for a record and go back to and reference. So I made this beautiful book. It is published and it is available now on Amazon.com in the United States and a number of other countries also. So if you're listening from Australia, UK, Canada, several other countries, it's available there as well. You can find it through the link that I put in the show notes if you're interested. It's currently priced at $9.99 US, so it's not a huge investment or expense. I wanted to keep it reasonable so that anybody could purchase that book and have their own running journal. But one of the biggest differences that I did with this journal that I think make it very unique is the other journals that I have used in the past that I got frustrated with, which prompted me to make my own, is that there was nowhere to write anything. And like I was saying before, I write stories when I get back from a run. I want to know everything. I want to note my niggles. I want to note how I felt. I want to note what gels I took during the run. I want to note my nutrition before, after, and during. All of that information is really helpful when you are 6 months down the road and ready to start a new training program. I want to know where I've been and what got me to where I am then. And then I want to know what's my starting point so that I can improve in my next training plan. And that is what writing down in a journal does. Putting it in an app, it like goes into a black hole. It's so hard to find anything and you can type out your notes, but it's not the same thing. It's kind of like going back to what we've been talking about this whole episode when you're not really owning the information when you type something as opposed to when you have a pen in your hand and paper and you're writing it. It uses a different part of our brain. And I'm sure there's lots of science surrounding it that I don't know the words for, but I do know from personal experience and others that there is a true, um, like, spiritual benefit to writing on paper. So use that instead. Take the stats, write in your journal all about your runs. Uh, I've got a story in one of my past journals that I wrote where I was running. I was training for the marathon and I was running in a new part of the neighborhood because my runs were getting longer. It was really early in the morning. And as I came up this hill, I looked over at one of the houses and there was my uncle's truck. And my uncle had passed away, oh gosh, 9, 15-ish years before that. Um, but someone in the little town, the city where I live in the same like community, there we go, had bought his truck all those years ago. And it shocked me to see it. It just brought back a flood of memories. I was not expecting to see his truck on that run that morning. It was just out of the blue. And I stopped and I stared at the truck and then I burst into tears. Just absolutely bawled, just standing there in the middle of the road, in this quiet little neighborhood at like probably 6:30 in the morning and just started crying when I saw his truck. I was so emotional and overtaken. And I, had to kind of gather myself a bit. And then I kind of, just went along on my run. What was I going to do? But I think just the surprise of seeing it and so unexpectedly to bring back all those memories of my uncle, um, it just made me very emotional. And, in those other running journals that I've used before, I could never write that story. And I think that if I wouldn't have written it down, I don't think that those details that I just shared with you would have stayed with me. I think I might have remembered, running along and seeing the truck and crying. But because I wrote it down after that run, it's now in my memory in deeper grooves, and I can recall it more vividly, and I'm glad I can because that was a really special moment, in my running journey, and it was very pivotal and impactful. So I'm glad that I have that memory, and I was able to write it down, and now I have it forever. So, anyway, just sharing my reasons for, why I decided to make this running journal. I know there's lots of journals on the market, but I felt that mine had a place and was special. So I hope that you'll find it special too, and go and check that out with the link in the show notes. I also want to invite you to, join me on social media because I'm on Facebook at Running on Carbs Coaching on Facebook. I have a free group there that you are welcome to join. Be happy to have you there. And of course, I'm on Instagram as well at running.on.carbs. So join me over there. You'll also see whenever episodes come up. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please, I invite you to subscribe to the podcast so that you're notified each time a new episode comes out on Thursdays, and you don't miss an episode. But in the meantime, yeah, if you have those setbacks, don't worry about it. Momentum, staying accountable, those setbacks are going to come, but frame them as opportunities and learn from them, adjust. They aren't failures. You're just going to learn and create an opportunity from something that didn't quite go the way you had originally planned. Okay? Um, but stay accountable, stay with it. Remember why you're doing this, the deep, intrinsic, genuine why for your transformation. And I promise you, you will get there. And if you need help getting there, reach out. But I know that you have it in you. And that's what you have to keep believing. You have it in you to make that genuine transformation, no matter what it is in your life that you are transforming, whether it's running, your nutrition, something in your personal life. It all works the same. And it's all the same system. It's all the same 5-step method. And you certainly can get there. Just be patient and have self-compassion, patience. Don't worry about that. All right. So to recap the key points, change starts from within. Focus on one significant change at a time. Identify our identity. Identity shapes your actions. So how you identify shapes your actions. Preparation, as we talked about, number one, preparation enables success. You have to be prepared. And support and accountability matter. All right. So if you are serious about making these changes and you feel a bit unsure, where to start, how to stay consistent, you want that accountability, I'd love to help you. I can help you create a plan that's tailored directly to you through one-on-one coaching. Or if you just want a done for you plan, you just need a training plan for a race, for instance, that's coming up, or you're just getting started, you want a run, walk, run plan. I do have these pre-built plans on Final Surge also, and that link is in the show notes as well. So whatever you need, I am here for you. Jump on there, connect with me for a 20-minute strategy call. Happy to do that. The availability is in the link, and it goes straight to my calendar. Okay. Well, everyone, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. You got something out of it, and that you are ready to take action for that genuine transformation. Remember, motivation is a liar. Don't trust her. But you can still do it. Motivation starts the ball, but then, you keep it going. All right. So everybody, Happy New Year. If you're listening to this live when it first comes out, you will be listening to it the day after Christmas in the US. And we are headed into 2025, the new year. It is across the river. You can see it. We just need to get over that river, and there we are in the new year. So I will see you all in the new year. And until then, I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy New Year. And remember, run your best life on carbs. I'm Coach Val. This is Running on Carbs podcast. I am so glad you joined me today. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.